Okay, so let's look. So we see here topics are required. That is a default setting, and we encourage not to change that. You will see that some are solid and some are dotted. So the ones that have the dotted lines around no longer are point-bearing topics. Okay, and what that means is students can use those topic tags, but they will not receive points for them. You see, there's quite a few. Now you can change that. Maybe your class has talked enough about emotional intelligence, and you want to change that to, or point earning disabled, I should say, so they no longer receive points for that. And then you'll see it is changed with a dotted line. It's important to inform the the students about this, because they may want to connect that to another topic tag that they will get points for. So it's important for them to know why some are filled in, bold, I guess you will, and some are dotted line around. You can not only disable the point earning, but you can also organize your topic tags. As we talked about course relevance, there are some of us that would like to have the first 6 at the top that the students see when they go to pick the topic tag or tags that they're going to use for their post. And again, you can add topic tags as you go. If you're seeing a discussion, there's not a discussion that's really happening that much with a topic tag, you can always either reply or comment on a student that has used that topic tag. It will bring it to the front. You can give them an accolade, like I said, that will bring them to the front. Brian, would you like to expand a little bit more on that?
Yeah, so there are various ways that you can definitely highlight specific topics. Rearranging them is a good way, especially if you have a lot of topics. We get a lot of questions about how many topics to put in, and we've seen everything from, a handful to somebody had like 100 in one community the other day. I would typically say you want students to be able to find the topics. And if you have a lot of topics, there are a few things that you can do to help them. Color coding similar topics is maybe one way to do it. But I would say kind of keep it a reasonable number that people can still find a topic, but it's still specific enough that it's helpful. And a lot of times that's sort of 1 or 2 topics per week. To build a little bit on what Deborah was saying, you can choose to turn topics off and they will no longer be able to earn points using them, but they'll still be able to create new conversations with that topic. There's also the ability to disable them. And when you've disabled a topic, it will turn gray entirely. And those disabled topics will not show up in the selector anymore. So when students create a post, they'll no longer be able to create a new post with a disabled topic. So that's sort of the distinction between a point disabled topic and a fully disabled topic. The disabled ones won't show up in the student selector list anymore. So if you really don't want students to talk about a topic anymore, you can disable it entirely or just turn the points off. Those are 2 options. I think, as a suggestion, generally, what we see is, first of all, it's good for students to blend topics together across the weeks. If you think about, your overarching topic for your class, there's subtopics, but they're all generally important for students to learn and think about together for a full understanding of the topic. So one of the things that we don't recommend is only having 1 point-enabled topic per week, right? We want students to blend them together a little bit. We want students to think about all of the themes of the course as a coherent whole. And I would typically recommend using the point disabling to nudge students off of the topic if they've already shown that they're kind of stuck on it, right? So if you're in week 6 on the topic that you're hoping they were focusing on in week 6, but they're still talking about their introductions, turn the points off for the introduction, tell them that you've done it, say you can keep talking about your introductions if you want. But I'd like you guys to move on to some of the other relevant course topics, and students will definitely do that. Deborah, you're muted. I think you're trying to talk.
Thanks. Okay, so also as we talked about the course relevant, obviously topic tags, we're going to talk about some other things that you can use and find out with topic tags. So first of all, you can filter. You can filter by topic tags. You see all these other ways that you can filter as well. But if you were wanting to basically encourage the students to filter by topic tag, and you want to bring that back to the forefront of discussion, if you will, because maybe there were some discussions that you want to give accolades to. Again, so we're connecting that topic to using that topic tag filter as well as an accolade, because you see some discussion that's going on here with, and look at all of the topic tags that were used here. So, and you want to give that person or that student an accolade. When you do give it an accolade, and let me clarify what accolades are. I'm kind of talking about those, not just assuming you know. So let's look at them. Accolades are bonus points. They are, if you will, a way to acknowledge a student's participation in the community in a positive way. And you can create your own, and here are some that are created for you. Community building, and they do get extra credit points basically for them. They're like badges, right? Helpful, verified response, thoughtful comment. And again, you can have these more course specific if you would like. But what I love about those, for instance, my favorite is verified response, because again, course relevance. If the students are having a conversation, and we all know a lot of times when an instructor jumps in, they're looking to the instructor to take over the conversation, their conversation stops, and they're just relying on you. Well, one way to go in and say, hey, you are right on track with this topic and this conversation, is to give them an accolade, a verified response accolade. And then maybe you're going to have a quiz at the end of the week. Suggest to the students to go in and filter by, you're having a quiz over learning theory and instruction, and go to learning theory and instruction, and then all of the ones that got an accolade, a verified response. And to me, that would make a great study guide for that quiz. So there's a way that topics not only keep the community course relevant, but there's also a lot of management tips, if you will, a way to organize the conversations and in a way that helps the students move their learning process forward. Also, you can filter by topic tags, but you can also click on them. And by clicking on them, we'll give you all of the conversations that have that topic tag in them. So a couple ways to, yes, keep it course relevant, but also ways to manage the community in a way to make it a productive learning environment for everyone, and motivating because it's somewhat enjoyable because of the easiness of accolades and organizing by topic tags.
There's a few questions in the chat about specific things related to the topic tags and points, so I want to just make sure I hit on those. Basically, if a student includes one point-enabled topic, the post at the time that it's made will get points for it. Basically, if they're using a disabled topic or a topic with the points disabled and a topic with them on, they would get the points because they're using a point-enabled topic. You can use that mechanism in some interesting ways. For example, if you wanted students to be able to ask questions, but not necessarily get points just for a question, and you want them to include a specific topic tag as well. So the thematic topic tag, but a question, you could create a question topic that doesn't earn points, and then tell them that they have to include the topic that the question is about in order to earn the points, right? So then you get two topic tags. You could still filter by question to find all of the questions, but that question would show up also if they clicked on the the theme topic. So you can think about topics as a little bit broader in some cases than just a specific course topic. you can have them for groups of things like questions or other kinds of things you might want to do in the community.
That's right. Yeah, I do think of a community that I was looking at, and they even had topic tags. And I know this was one of the questions we got earlier about a literature and writing course. They even had topic tags of like writing workshop. And then they would have the specific skill that they were working on. So if a student had a question about something with their writing piece, that was a topic tag. And they would include that with their question topic tag as well. So there's really a lot of creative ways that instructors use topic tags to, again, keep it course relevant, but actually just give the students that kind of organization in their head, if you will, to be able to be an active member in the community that not only is sharing knowledge, but also helping the other members in the community as well. Okay.
And just to finish answering one of the other questions on points about topics, it honors whatever is currently set for the topics, right? So if a topic is point enabled and a student uses it, they would get the points. If you then turn that off, any future students that use it would not earn points, but the original student wouldn't lose them either, right? So it's sort of from the point that you make the change going forward is how those settings will be applied for point earning. And I think that answers the two major questions we had.
Perfect. And let me just touch a little bit on point earning. These are our default settings here. Creating a new post. And as we said, we're keeping topic tags required with a minimum of 40 words, 280 points. Commenting on another user post with minimum of 20 words, 210 points. Notice per word per point, we value comments, not just continually posting, but yet really engaging in what others are saying by commenting or reacting is what a vibrant community is all about. Receiving a comment from another. These are what we call social points. And as we focus in on the social aspect of the community of inquiry with cognitive presence, instructor presence, and social presence, this is where we have that point bearing, when I say points, for those social points, meaning that it really does motivate the student in a way to create a course relevant post with the topic tags. And if they come in early, they're more likely to receive a comment from another, and they're more likely to receive a reaction from another. So not are we saying post are due on Wednesday, reply twice, but we're really encouraging with the gainful point learning them to understand that, oh, I come in early and I'm going to have people read my post if it's quality content. And I'm going to have people comment on it and react to it. And that will give me some social points. So that behavior then is conditioned somewhat because of the reward that they get with the points.
I just want to build a little bit on what Deborah just said, because I think it's pretty important. We talked about the point system previously as sort of encouraging engagement and behavior. But the most important thing to me about the point system, and especially those social point categories at the bottom, where you stand to earn points from other people, those require students, or I should say, incentivize students to create more thoughtful content that's more relevant to the course. And one of the things that we find from a support perspective is a lot of times when somebody comes to us and says, my students aren't really talking about the topics that I want them to talk about, or they're not really posting very thoughtfully about specific things in the course. A lot of times what we find is that people have turned off those social points. And it's because those points are what encourage students to stay on topic, to share things that are really relevant, that are timely, that other students, are going to value. and get benefit from. And so if you're not using the social points, this is my one plug as the sort of head of our success side of things, is, those point categories are super important. And I would recommend you at least experiment turning them on if you've never used them in the past. It really influences the way that students behave in these communities, and makes them really put much more relevant content into the community. So if you aren't using those, give it a try, for sure.
Okay. Okay. You see my screen again? Here we go. Okay, so we're going to continue on with some other things that we talked about as far as using the some management tips with topic tags and course relevance as well. So first of all, another motivation feature is you can go in and look at the community health. From here, you will be able to go up to topics, and you can see those topic tags and the percentage of total posts that those topic tags were used. Now, this is a great type of formative assessment in a way for instructors, because they can see that research and ethics maybe has not been discussed as much as you would like. Would be a great time to either piggyback and comment on one that where this topic tag was used, because then that will bring it to the forefront, or give an accolade for someone that used this topic tag with some quality information, or you create one that brings it back with a great article that you saw about research and ethics. So this is a great way that you can not only see how many of the top, or how the percentage of total posts with those tags, but then if you scroll on down, you can see who has used that topic tag, the activity per user, if you will. What I love about this is you can see maybe who's your expert with that course relevant topic. For instance, it looks like this person right here has a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge to share about career application. To me, it'd be a great time to ask Norma if she would like to do a Zoom session, have a quick little Zoom session. Maybe her 8 to 5 job is all about career applications, and she can bring a lot of the real life experience and knowledge into your community as well. Okay, moving right along, I did want to show you a little bit about the points report, because we were talking about points and how, yes, that motivates them. And as Brian suggested with the social points, and it does motivate them to come in early and create good content. You can see at the click of a button here where your student is at any time, and they can too as well by looking at their participation widget, which I will go to. So if you look at, for instance, this log right here, you can see exactly how and when that student got any points. You can see, again, it breaks down. This is not a real good example because Belle has not been that busy. But let's look here. Let's look at Shannon again. Okay, so you will see that again, it shows their cumulative total, their target for the course. Right here is a piece of information that the students have access to in their course, in their widget, participation widget, but it tells them the cumulative total, their target, and their grade passback in their LMS system. And I know we did have a question submitted earlier about that. Basically, again, and we'll talk about that a little bit more, but we have points in Yellowdig and we have percentage in the LMS. So it's kind of like apples and oranges, if you will. So what we suggest highly is to always guide the students to go to the show details, and they can see exactly where they are in their participation log, kind of similar to what I just showed you there. They can also look at their participation In 3 different ways, really. We are really meeting the needs of our multiple learners here, right? We have a narrative, we have a visual, we have a chart. And this really does tell them exactly where they are at that specific time, and and as you move it across, you can see where their targets are and where they are. So I think we really, Yellowdig, as you encourage students to look right here to see where they are with their Yellowdig participation, this will be very helpful. Ryan, did you want to add anything to these charts here?
Not in particular. I did want to answer Laurie's question live. She asked about the point report being sorted highest to lowest. We're working on adding that functionality in, Laurie. There's some technical reasons that as we change that point report to make it searchable and load the data in there a little bit differently, we were having trouble sorting by those points, but that should be, I believe it's coming out in the next couple of weeks, possibly. It will be in there. We're going to continue to add some functionality to this page. Hopefully, some of the things are a little bit easier with the search added and the bulk adjustment of points that you can do now. But yes, that is something we're getting back in there.
Great. Yeah. And that was one question, again, that was submitted ahead of time about points when we're off for a holiday break. We suggest to go in and adjust the points, give those students those points that they would not have to worry about getting into the platform to get. Obviously, if you're off for a Christmas break, this is the best way. Add the points for that week. You can tell them happy holidays or whatever the case is, and then submit it. And then they won't have to worry about getting in or feel like they need to get into Yellowdig during that week.
Yeah, in addition, we are currently working on a feature to merge grading periods so that if you wanted to give students a week off for spring break, you would just merge the spring break grading period into the following one. And then students would only need to earn 1 week's worth of points in a 2-week time period. So there is a new feature that's coming out to merge periods. That one I think is also, I would expect to land in the next few weeks. It should definitely be ready in advance of spring term.
Right. Yeah, something else I wanted to point out is when we talk about course relevance, we encourage, obviously, our best practices within Yellowdig, and that being how to set the topics, using the accolades, and also motivating the students with those course relevant topics. And really, you can also do course relevant accolades if you'd like. But I know there was a question submitted earlier about best practices. If you go to the community health, you go to the health check, you will see right here our best practices that we recommend. And by clicking on that, it goes to a knowledge-based article that gives you even more details. So this is a quick way right within the platform to just do a check about following best practices and if you've met those guidelines for using best practices. And here at Yellowdig, we're always available to meet with you. Janine and I are all about best practices and pedagogy within the Yellowdig platform, and Brian too. So we're more than happy to meet with you to help you set up a community, brainstorm ideas, and just get some clarity if that's what you need.
The only thing that I would add on to that is obviously that checklist of best practices are things that we can detect just based on the settings inside of Yellowdig. I think there are a number of additional sort of recommendations and best practices, and that's why we have sessions like this to sort of improve the sort of student interactions that you can get. And at a very high level, when people are talking to me about how to make sure that Yellowdig is really course relevant and on topic, my biggest recommendation is for the instructor to take part in the conversation and to sort of ask questions and steer the conversation from within comments, rather than trying to create posts that always steer the conversation, right? So a great way to get students to share a little bit more, or to dig deeper into a specific topic, is to go into a comment on one of their posts, or where somebody has asked a question, and write your own observation and then ask a leading question that's going to get somebody to continue that conversation. And frankly, a lot of times it's sort of do the things that you hope students will do, right? Get in the comments and keep it on topic, and ask questions, and those things students will start to mirror in a lot of cases, or almost every case. And so a lot of times, just your behavior in the community, showing sensitivity to the things that people are talking about, and building off of that in sort of the directions that you want it to go, can help shepherd that conversation a little bit. But I also think it's a little bit important to say, conversations, part of the value of them is that they're a little bit messy sometimes, right? They wander a little bit. That's what keeps them interesting. That's what keeps them sort of everybody paying attention to what's going on. And that's what brings in a lot of sort of interesting ideas or interesting things to talk about. So, part, I think, of getting good course relevance is also accepting that sometimes conversations are going to just drift a little bit, and there's a certain level of comfort you probably want to develop with that, because if you don't allow it at all, a lot of times it'll just shut down the conversation entirely. There won't be enough for students to really grab onto, or they won't find it interesting enough to keep it going. So I guess with all things in life, it's kind of a balancing act, but a true value of conversations is that they are a little bit unpredictable and a little bit, a little messy, I guess, is the best way to say it sometimes.
Right. And I think too, with those conversations, with the course relevant topic tags, they can really kind of apply that application of the knowledge that's needed for the learning process, right? So what better way to apply the knowledge that they have about the topic tags rather than, in a conversation type setting, where they do have a voice, where they can converse with others and kind of piggyback off each other, if you will, to expand that course content. And as Brian was talking, as an instructor, you are like the guide on the side, right? You can be that model community member. And we've heard so much from instructors like, oh, it's so nice. I almost feel closer and more connected to my students because of Yellowdig than I did in a face-to-face class, because they're really conversing, they're talking, and this instructor is just one of them, if you will, talking about the course relevant topics, giving the accolades, adding comments, sharing articles, sharing resources. And so I think you'll find that it's motivating for the students as well as for the instructor, because it's enjoyable. And so they like to come back to see what's happening in Yellowdig.
Melanie, I want to address your question directly. So many of our professors use the module titles as topics in Yellowdig. Do you have any other suggestions about what topics should be? So one thing that we see people doing often is using, module 1 or week 1, week 2, week 3 as the topic titles. I would specifically advise against that. And there's a couple reasons, and I wouldn't even put like WK1 at the head of a title and then put the sort of thematic name. If it's intrinsic motivation in week 1, don't do week 1 intrinsic motivation. I would just do intrinsic motivation. But there's a couple of reasons for that recommendation. Number one, if you label it week 1 or module 1, students will think that they can only talk about module 1 during module 1. They'll also start to think about Yellowdig as entirely sort of a one-time a week assignment, right? Like I just have to come and do Yellowdig once a week. And one thing that I like to talk to everybody about to the extent possible is it may be good enough for a student to come once a week, but if every single person in the class comes to Yellowdig only once a week, you're never going to be able to really get a good conversation going and started, right? There's no time to have a back and forth conversation if every student is coming only once a week. So one of the reasons that I advise against labeling things week one or module one is because it gets students to treat it as a once a week activity, and it definitely hurts outcomes. Also, when students are creating a post, they have to think, what is week one or what is module one? And they don't really think about the topic. They just think about, okay, it's week one, so I do week one topic. If you force them to use the topic theme, like intrinsic motivation, extrinsic motivation, whatever, when they're selecting the topic, they're thinking about whether the post that they're about to create is actually related to the topic. So it helps actually amp up how much students pay attention to posting relevant information. Now, as for, if there are other better suggestions, I think most people, when they're creating, a syllabus, they'll do week one and it has some theme associated with it, week two and there's some theme associated with it. Generally speaking, I would just create it with the thematic names of what is in your syllabus. And, if it's a 10 to 14 week class, that means you'll have 10 to 14 topics. And then maybe there's a couple of overarching themes for the course, or maybe there are a few, of the modules that are really hefty topics, and there's really maybe 2 or 3 things built within those topics. Maybe add a few more. I typically wouldn't want to have too many more than like 20 topics at a time available to students, just because they'll have to pick so many of them. And so, I think that probably is a good way to think about how to design these. I guess I don't know, Deborah, Janine, if you have any other thoughts, or frankly, anybody that has been adding topics that they feel like their topic situation has been good for them.
Right.
Happy to hear about it.
Yeah, one thing I might add, I know some instructors feel like a topic sometimes is too broad. And so, they'll want to break that down a little bit more, just to kind of spark a little more thought, the thought process in the students, like, this topic, but within this topic, there's all these other 3 things that, we can talk about in our Yellowdig community. So it kind of depends on your students as well as your content. But like I said at the beginning, you pretty much know what you want your students to learn and discuss about a certain topic. And if you need to get more in the weeds with that, why skinning it down a little bit with, I call them supporting detail topics, that may be helpful, just to, like trigger something else that when they see that topic tag, they're like, oh, I get it now. I can connect it. So
one of the other things, while you're there, Deborah, if you can just show them the permalinks and exactly where those are. We talked a little bit before about copying permalinks, but you can copy a link to any post or comment and then share that with students in your community. And as long as they're a member of the community, they'll be able to get directly to that post or comment. I'm mentioning that here because, as you're thinking about relevance and how to get students focused on some of the topics that you want, a great way to do that is to pull permalinks that are already talking about the topics that you want and just highlighting them for students. So one of the things that I like to recommend is making a short digest of some of your favorite posts and comments from the week, and just at the beginning of the week sharing those comments and saying, hey, check out these really interesting comments that are, on topics that you've now chosen. Check out these interesting posts and comments, and sort of just say, remember to get started for Yellowdig this week or whatever, right? So it focuses, it works both as a reminder to all students to participate and to get started, earlier in the week, but it also lets you re-highlight those conversations and content that you want. And I think one interesting or important thing that I'll say right now is students learn mostly in Yellowdig. It seems like from all of our research and working with our different partners, they seem to mostly learn in Yellowdig from consuming what is being posted more than creating it, right? So I think a lot of times I wish that people would focus a little bit more on what things students are going to read and consume and encouraging the reading part of it first. And then the talking part of it and the back and forth conversations are more likely to flow after that. But students are also going to be learning more from actually consuming that information. So something like the hyperlink idea, the permalink idea, really encourages students to go back in and start reading and starting early in the week, so it can really help build relevant conversations that also get started and have a good chance to really blossom into something.
And Deborah, while you're on that page, would you mind answering the question that Nicholas asked, which is what happens to the students' points if their comment or post gets flagged? So maybe just remind everybody what the flagging is if they don't know what that is already.
Okay, yes, for sure. So as you see here, you have the option to flag a post. If a post is flagged, that post gets taken down and they do not get points for that post. Students can also flag post. You can put the reason right here. Also, there is a drop-down box, and then they will be notified of the reason why their post was flagged. And they can be notified depending on their settings. They can go through right here and either be notified within the app, which is, if you look at this bell right over here, will show you if you have any notifications, or they can also get an email notification.
And just to dig just a tiny bit deeper on that, the student whose post gets flagged will lose the points. Yes. Post or comment will lose the points for that, unless it gets put back on after you've reviewed it. If a student has responded in a comment to that post, the comment will not automatically lose points. We didn't, the system doesn't punish another student just because they responded to something else that got flagged. So I hope that fills in even a little bit more detail on, what would happen.
Great. Yeah, I also did want to point out this right here. I know we talked a little bit about setting expectations at the beginning of the Yellowdig community or using Yellowdig. So important to make sure the students are understanding Yellowdig, because it is a different mindset. And so within with this question mark right here, we have every article that you can ever imagine that talks about getting started, informing the students of Yellowdig and their role as a community member. And then also we have articles that tell you, about the points and grade passback if you need to clarify that to students. And we do also suggest at the beginning to use our video feature within the platform to introduce yourself. It also gives you a good time to kind of show off, if you will, the features of Yellowdig. Attachments. So this is motivating in itself for the students. And I think as instructors, you have these different choices. You can record a 90-second video, which, like we said, setting expectations. We have all kinds of resources to put in your syllabus. The students will also have quick tutorials that they will go through once they get into the community. But again, just coming from you right within the platform, welcoming them to Yellowdig and, inviting them to enjoy this process. There's a lot of emojis you can draw on the whiteboard feature or on an annotated picture if you'd like to. The poll is right here. That is for you or the students. Formula. We've had some interesting uses of the poll, especially in statistics class, which I would have never thought of, but using the poll to get a pulse on the community and then carrying that over to the content of statistics, which is about all I know about statistics. So I won't try to dive deeper into that. Again, there is a pinning option as well. You can pin that post to the top if you're wanting to bring it to the attention of the others. You can also use a bookmark feature, you or your students, if you want to keep some posts bookmarked to refer back to at a later time. So there's a lot of different features for sure.
Laurie asked about whether or not students see the reason that a post was flagged. They're able to look at their flagged posts. If they have a post that's flagged, they'll see flagged posts in the menu on the left-hand side. They also get a notification about that. So there should be ways for them to see that the post was flagged and the reason. You can just direct them to the flagged posts page if they can't find it. You know, one quick thing I guess I would say about the flagging content, or we've seen people actually use negative accolades because we didn't think to block that function when we originally put them in. But I guess one overarching thing that I would say about taking points away from students is I kind of recommend doing it pretty judiciously. And there are times for sure when students, you know, shouldn't get credit for something. But I would tend to, personally, I would tend to allow them a little bit more freedom than it seems like some people do, and to instead encourage them to be on topic by using sort of positive reinforcement. So one of the things that Deborah was talking about was, you know, getting into the community, setting expectations right up front. You know, record a video where you're going to tell students about, you know, how you're going to interact in the community and your expectations, and then obviously try to enforce those expectations. But I think the best way to enforce those expectations in most cases is to celebrate the students that are really doing the right things, that are doing exactly what you want them to do. And very often, you know, the rest of the course will, you know, follow right behind that. And if you do a good job of using, you know, positive reinforcement to get those behaviors that you want to see, you're going to do a lot less sort of, you know, needing to enforce the rules.
Yes, and I believe someone in the chat asked about like your reason. You have this dialog box right here that you could put in your reason. If none of these, you know, I mean, obviously giving a little more detail as to why it was taken down would be valuable for the student.
Just to clarify, and Lori may want to explain this herself. So we're hearing that the students aren't seeing that reason.
Right. They get an email that says, you know, like off topic, but and I'm looking at like when a student flagged another student's, and I wish I could edit like those reasons, because I've had to use this worrisome topic, and I know that probably you might mean it to mean something else, but I have it in my syllabus. It's worrisome to me that you haven't been reading or you didn't search that this conversation was already started. So, and I have that in my syllabus, and I do write the reason out, and I'll get an email immediately from the student saying, why is my post flagged? So I'm wondering if they see those reasons that we type in there, or did they just see the worrisome, plagiarized, off topic, and whatever the other inappropriate. I wish I could edit that, because like maybe instead of using worrisome, I'd want like redundant or because I had a student who emailed me and say, hey, look, this person just posted something about Kanye West. I teach a marketing class. I already started that conversation a couple weeks ago, and it isn't fair that someone comes in right before the deadline and 2 weeks later and posts like they've never seen this before. And then people are commenting to that student, and the first student doesn't get the points. So that student flagged it for me, but I've only had 2 students in 3 semesters ever flag posts. And it doesn't seem like they seem to see that reason when I write stuff in there.
So, Laurie, I'm pretty sure that it shows up in the flagged post area for the student. I would need to test the emails, to be honest with you. It's kind of funny. We don't dig into the flagged posts all that often because we don't find that they really get used all that much.
Well,
which I guess is a good
thing. I use it too much. Well, like, for example, I even started this semester saying, here is the conversation on autonomous vehicles right here. Don't start new conversations. If you have something that, comes up and it's related to self-driving vehicles, it belongs in this conversation, and then someone will come along in week 8. Oh, wow, look about that. And I mean, I even have videos showing how to search. And I have to be very careful. I actually create starter posts a lot of times anonymously because I want to pretend I'm a student. I don't want them to know it's me. Although I don't think they really know who Laurie Babin is, to be honest with you, in an online class. But that's another thing I would like to ask. I can't tell which ones of my posts are anonymous anymore because it doesn't say that anymore. I have to actually go click edit to see if I've made it anonymous or not. So can we get that feature back? I don't know if my students are posting anonymously because I don't see that indication anymore.
I didn't think we changed anything there. I'd have to look into that.
Well, I know for a fact mine that I post anonymously. I'm trying to model that behavior of a good student. I even go give myself an accolade, not right away. I wait a few days and I give myself an accolade on a great conversation starter or something. But then I don't really know which ones of my posts are anonymous.
Okay. I'll have to look into.
And I used to be able to see that. We used to be able to see that.
One recommendation to sort of go back to the issue of students, starting a conversation again. The way that our feed works in Yellowdig, anytime a post is created, it goes in at the top. And anytime a student comments on a post, it goes back to the top. And so the point system was sort of created around that idea where students would be creating sort of the start of a new conversation, and then students beneath it would continue that conversation.
Okay, this is
and one thing is if a conversation gets so big, all of the posts and comments underneath, it becomes a little bit harder for students to find content within those conversations. Typically, what we would recommend is create a topic tag for the high-level conversations that you want to have, and then students would be able to just post using the topic tag, sort of sub-conversations, if you will. So one thing I might recommend is rather than telling students to all reply to one post, is to just use a topic tag if they're talking about that specific topic, and sort of, I don't know if the word is sort of elevate one level of hierarchy, but if every student that wanted to post about and share something new was using the topic tag for that conversation, it might play a little bit better overall. And then they can just click on the topic tag to find all of the conversations around that.
Yes and no. I don't agree with that because then that would have way too many topic tags. I already have a lot in a principles of marketing course. But that doesn't encourage students necessarily to post, to search and see, wait a second, maybe this thing about Kanye West, being fired by Adidas has already been talked about, or I have something to add in that conversation.
Yeah.
It's a challenge. It gets, when you have a lot of students, I have 92 students, it's getting overwhelming. But it's great. I actually step back and I participate more like as a student, and I'll do some posts, you know, I have the weekly announcements and all that kind of stuff. But I'm usually pleasantly surprised when I do go in to create my test questions, because I put questions on the exams from Yellowdig, and I make sure I've fed enough conceptual stuff that I want them to talk about, that I have enough questions. But I've been able to create lots of questions from the conversations that they just bring up related to the course. It's really impressive. You know, it's better that I stay out of the conversation sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes our recommendations are to take a step back. If things are going well, there's not really a reason to jump in to every single thing. You want students to know that you're there, but and that you care about what's going on, but right, you don't want to necessarily steer every conversation. It's great to hear that that's happening. I think you know, as we're sort of building out these topics, and you do have more students in your class, right? You know, more things are likely to come up that one student may have missed, right? And that can lead to a little bit of replication. But with the way that the feed sort of pops things to the top, I wonder if your students, you know, would sort of say, hey, you know, there's already, you know, somebody was just talking about this, and be able to use a permalink to, you know, highlight that conversation, to give credit back to another student, or to, you know, highlight those conversations. So you might try to encourage students to do a little bit of that. You know, so like in the example you said where the student sort of flagged the other student's post because it was replicating part of hers, instead of flagging that post, maybe that student could have said, you know, hey, there's already a conversation about this. Why don't you join us over here? And it would have had.
Oh no, she wanted those points gone because she was mad because she started a good conversation and this other student came in later, obviously not seeing it, maybe even using the same source and stuff. So it's like,
Deborah, do we have a quick minute just to show Melanie how we filter by the accoladed posts and the specific topic?
We do. Okay, Melanie.
I was going to say, we're over time, so if anybody has to leave, thank you for coming for sure, and feel free to jump off, but we do have some time to stick around and continue talking. So we're going to do that, and as long as you guys ask questions, we'll keep going.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Okay, Melanie, yeah, let me show you how to do that. So if you go over here to the filter section and you want to pick the topic of
we are not seeing your screen.
Yes. Okay. Let me get this over here. Well, okay, hold on, please. Okay, here we go. Share. Are you good?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, here we go. So, Melanie, we'll try again. Filter over here by topic. So let's do stress and health psychology. And then you also want to filter by the accolade verified response. You'll have both. So you can put obviously more than one on there. So they filtered by stress and health psychology, and also the verified response. And like I said, this would make a great study guide.
Yeah. All of the filters can be sort of added on top of each other. So you could really drill down if you keep adding them.
A date.
Yep. The other thing is the you know, search also is an and on top of the other filters. So if you start a search, or even just type a blank in, you can start a search that will open the search experience and then find additional things.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Yes. Okay. Any other questions?
All right. Well, hopefully this was useful for you guys, and any feedback that you have to make these more helpful, we'll definitely hear it.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Nice
Thank
meeting
you.
you.
Have a great day.
Yeah, you too. Bye-bye.